The genset's in. It's time to bolt this kangaroo down. Sport. Brupeg was a sunken fishing trawler that was stripped out and ready for the scrapyard. She's just completed a 10-year rebuild that's brought her back to life. With the help of volunteers and funded by our Patreons, community and subscribers, she'll be crewed by passionate people from around the world. If you'd like to be involved and support the project, please consider joining us on Patreon or subscribe to the channel. There's a link in the description below.
So I have a new baby on board. Babycat has got competition. So the next couple of days, it's all about the genset, getting it sorted out. Duncan's arriving tomorrow, if all goes according to plan. We're seeing Peter this afternoon. He's dropping in after a radio workshop thing he's been doing here, conference thing. So we're looking forward to seeing you, Peter. But it's all about the genset. We've got a week, well, actually 5 days to get this working. So it's a bit of a, as usual on Brupeg, it's a little bit pressured. But we're planning to enjoy those 5 days. So we'll see how we go. So the plan with Jenny,
Alabama,
is to mount this end. Sorry, Forrest. Is to mount this end of the genset first. It's a straight piece of steel. It's a very simple mount. And then this end over here, the genset's going to shuffle over that way about 100 mil, 4 inches, something like that. This piece over here, we're going to do some little wiggles and so on. We'll explain those in a sec, but let's first get this end mounted because that locates the genset.
And to explain the wiggles soon. Technical term?
Technical wiggle.
Technical wiggle.
Yeah.
I think there'll be a lot of wiggling in this. So
the plan is to essentially replace this. We're going to take this off. We're going to use these mounts, these bolts just here. We're going to bolt straight to a new piece of 100 mil by 16 mil flat bar. Where Birk's got the tape now is pretty much where our new piece of steel's going. So we're going to do a straight with a T. We're going to bolt it to the original mounts, and then we're going to bolt the genset to the new piece of steel. This is us preparing the work site so that we don't stab ourselves in the face.
Someone's going to hit their head for sure.
Someone is going to hit their head for sure. So we've already done both ribs. We've got our mag drill ready to go because we're going to pop some holes in this guy soon, but we're going to just drop saw this off square to just cut a little stub off the end so that it's cut square. And then we've got our two pieces that will form the T that we're building over on this side of the genset.
Heating up or something?
Yep. So the drop saw isn't really cutting it, literally. It just work hardens, so we're basically not able to get it through, and it's because we can't get it vertical. So normally you'd sit the metal vertical and you try and cut through it this way, because then you're only cutting a small piece of steel every time. Whereas doing it this way, we were doing it flat. We've got a big long cut, work hardens, we just can't get through it. So 9-inch. That's why you wear a face shield. Careful. Grateful for that. So Birk stripped up some cardboard. We're just fixing that together. We've made little templates that when we cut the holes in here, that should theoretically be what we're going to be using for our drilling template. And then using a hole punch, bit of hardwood timber, we're able to just knock out two nice clean holes. Now that we've knocked the holes in this, it's a bit of a test fit. There's our drilling jig for our piece of steel that we're about to make. So because the steel is 16mm or 5/8 of an inch thick, we need to put chamfers into where we're going to weld, because we've got a lot of material to weld. We're not going to be able to penetrate deep enough with just a couple of passes, so we chamfer the steel out so we can fill it up with weld right to the center on both sides. Pig on.
Wind.
It's one of my favourite types of welding, really thick, heavy steel when you're TIG welding. It's just really hard to muck it up and you can just have a lot of fun doing it. So when doing a joint like this, you're going to get a lot of warpage if you only weld one side. So I weld one side and then immediately flip the steel over and go straight into the other side so that the heat is pulling evenly on both sides. Here you can see the technique that I use for my capping run, where I'm basically bouncing from one side to the other nice and slowly. I probably should have put a little bit more filler rod in there because I'm getting a wee bit of undercut, but it's going to be more than enough to hold this mount. But you can sort of see that's how you get the pattern with TIG welding, is just that constant, consistent, almost robotic movement from one side to the other. And then cooling down, I always try and take the heat out from the very far end of the weld. So here you can see I'm nowhere near the weld and the heat will get sucked out. Right, we'll cut those and make it pretty. So now that we've got this basically welded up, both sides welded, you can kind of see it there. We need to go through and radius off all the corners and everything so that it's able to be grabbed without, chopping fingers up. The drilling template that Birk made earlier, so we're going to put that over top of this, and that's going to give us our exact template to drill to. So once we've got these guys marked out, we'll go through with the mag drill, bop a hole in each of these. They don't have to be exact fits, so they can have a little bit of clearance, like a mil or two of clearance. So we'll go through and we'll put those in, and then we can slit that down on top of the original bolts, bolt this down, and then we're going to drill and tap where the generator mounts go onto this. We're going to drill and tap the original rubber engine mounts down onto this steel bed. Cutting gel supplied by Daniel in the States, thank you very much.
And this is Dame's attempt at reducing cleaning up afterwards, stopping the shrapnel going everywhere.
So nice surprise, one of our Patreons, Peter, has turned up. He's an electrician. He's going to give us a hand to start looking at this single phase genset.
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm been a long time patron of Brupeg, and I'm finally here after all these years. So thanks for having me on the boat. And yeah, I'm a licensed electrician and professional electrical engineer. So I thought I'd come in and see if I can get in the way.
Right, mount is built basically. So these are all being nicely chamfered off. Birk's gone through and done those. We're giving the welder clean up just to make sure there's no dags on it. Radius off the corners so it's nice and lovely. Right, time to weld it in. Peter's stripping out the wiring so that was all sort of coiled up and zip tied onto the engine and the genset and everything. So we're basically stripping it apart and figuring out what goes where. And while that's happening, Birk and I are going to unbolt this guy here, start bolting in the new mount onto these original bolt areas, and then we'll figure out where these rubber mounts need to drill and tap onto this piece of steel here.
J 7.15, J 0.7, J 7.4.
We're going through basically all the random plugs trying to figure out what they are. There's a wiring diagram that we found in the book.
If we get that done and then have a pause and then let's stop it.
The guys are dropping the genset to get the markings accurate for where it will sit on the new mount.
This is the original cross member. What we've got is we know where the hole has to go, so we've got the two holes there and there. But rather than try and just guess these holes, because we will get them wrong, we're going to use this as a drilling jig. So we put the first one, same sort of location. We just centre that up. Provided we can just drill and tap straight down there, it's going to be perfectly aligned for what we need. So that's our plan. But the challenge is we actually don't have the right size drill. We have lost the 6.5mm drill. We actually need a 6.75mm drill. We don't have one. We have a 6.5 that we have lost. So we're going to try it with a 6mm, and then we're going to use a tapered tap to basically go through. We have to go quite slow because we don't have the hole as big as it needs to be. But I think we can get it butchered enough to be able to do it. So that's our challenge.
I think we're just rounding it out.
That is making an awful job of it.
I don't think that works.
No, not with a hole that's the wrong size. Alright, we need to get a drill tomorrow. Okay, so that didn't work. The hole that we've got is 6mm. We need 6.75. So we're basically just trying to file too much out using the tap. So it's just making a mess of things. So we're going to go into town first thing and grab the right drill. Therefore we can just drill and tap these. We can still use this to drill and tap it, but we'll have the right size hole, so we end up with a hole that'll actually have threads. Right, now that we've got our first mount in place, we need to start working on this guy over here. So that's where it's going to sit. What I want to do is take this tin cross member off. I'm going to use these mounts, but I need to make a mount that does a bit of a wiggle that lifts it up that high. So it's a wee bit of a height that I've got to come up, but it should be pretty straightforward to do. Alright, the rubber mounts have been unbolted. So time to lift the engine up and remove this cross member, get rid of all of the timber and everything we've got underneath, and lower the engine back down until the top of it is sitting level. The boat's roughly level at the moment, so we'll lower this down to the top of it sitting level, and then we can start measuring up what we need to do on these mounts. Now, normally these mounts have a large piece of steel that sort of comes out here, and the radiator sits on this bracket. Now, Ryan kindly cut that off. We don't need it, and it just took up room when we were shipping it, but there's some sort of sharp bits. It's basically cut off just for transport, so it's obviously not cleaned up or anything. So what I want to do is, once we've got this part in pieces, I'll take this mount off the engine here, and I'll just slice that down really cleanly and clean it all up, put some radiuses on it, just so that it's not going to cut anybody in the future. The other one is exactly the same over that side there. You can sort of see a few daggy bits on it that need to be cleaned up. Yesterday, Peter, he's gone back to his hometown now, but he's gone through and helped us label up all of the different things on the engine, and then all of the other bits and pieces that we need to hook up, he's gone through and helped us identify what they are. So that's an amazing help. I know nothing about generators. I can understand the engine side of it. As soon as you get into this part of it, I'm completely out of my depth. So it's amazing to have somebody that actually knows what they're talking about go through and figure out what we need to do. So thanks for your help, Peter. It was really cool to meet you, and it was awesome to have you on board the boat. It was a great help, and we really appreciate it. Thank you, mate. So that's not going to work after my efforts there to make a little temporary mount. Yeah, hardwood. Not very strong when you go down against the grain. It's not that I have preferences, but that's why steel's better. Okay, journey has been leveled up. We still need to name this, obviously, but for now, we're putting the placeholder of journey. So you can see over here, we haven't drilled and tapped these yet because the shops aren't open. We can't buy the drill bit that we need, so that's just clamped up as to where it's going to go. This is clamped down hard onto its original mounts. Will be bolted up soon. I need to get new nuts for it, so will be bolted up soon. These will be drilled and tapped tomorrow when I can go and get a drill in town, but they're just clamped down, so it is where it's going to sit. It just needs to obviously be drilled and tapped. At this end here, I've got a pretty structural piece of timber that's involved in the mount. There's another one just over there as well. So I've made this little mount. So it goes this piece here is going to be 16mm thick by 100mm wide flat bar. It's actually this big chunking piece of steel right here, and that's going to mount. I have to get rid of these two little studs, but that's going to mount in there like that. Obviously it's hard to sort of see where it sits, but it will sit under the mount just like that. So we're going to be rubber mounted here, we're going to be solid mounted here, rubber mounted here, and then solid mounted back onto the engine. So that's our vibration dampener, noise dampener, whatever you want to call it. I think that's going to be strong enough. We're going to weld it onto the boat, and we're going to bolt the engine mount onto this mount here. And we're going to do virtually the same thing up here, but the difference is the height here is completely different. So I have to make the same mount, just totally different heights, probably less high, if that makes sense. But let's get this one here made, clamped in, sitting on there, and then we can focus on the one on that side over there. So cardboard template, that's what it looks like when it's moved out over onto this. So we've got that piece there, which is 16mm too short. That piece there, which is going to be that one there if I flip it around, which is approximately 16mm too short. And then that one there is the difference, and I'm leaving it so that I end up with big gaps in the corner. I'll try and get that straight up. I'm going to leave it so we've got a 16mm piece here, another piece here, and another piece there, and what that leaves, we've got a great big V in the corner that we can fill up. So makes welding easy, and we use less material. This is the original muffler off the Genset, and what we need to do, we're going to be standing it upright like that. That's how it normally sits, I believe, because of the mounting points. Obviously this is pointing in the completely wrong direction. You can see we've got the inlet here and the outlet there. We're going to retain the outlet going like so, but we need to change this inlet. So we're going to cut it off at that weld right there. We're going to slice it. We're going to slice it down there and spin it around 90 degrees so that it points down, and then we're going to weld it back on. And that's because that's getting mounted above the roof on Brupeg, so we need it to point down into this, which is the channel where all of our exhausts run down from. You might be able to just see the main exhaust up there, and then beside it will be a 2-inch pipe. We've got a whole stack of 2-inch pipes over there ready to go. That's going to form the exhaust for a new Genset. That's the first time I've ever walked the cup, so that was kind of cool. We should do more of that. Alright, because I don't have rods any bigger than 2.4, we're going to use quite a few rods at the same time in order to achieve exactly the same thing. Lots of metal into the weld. We've got a huge weld to fill up. Lots of weld deposition. Birkosaurus 3000 is making a new exhaust muffler. So, well, he's not making a new muffler, he's modifying the old muffler into a new muffler, kind of. On this muffler, we're not 100% sure how hot this muffler is actually going to get, and we want to rubber mount it to stop noise. So what we're thinking is basically mounting it on these stainless. We're going to bolt it to these stainless brackets and then rubber mount these, and hoping that that's going to give us a little bit of separation in terms of heat. But it also allows us to make adjustments independent of each corner, so that we can account for the angle of the roof once we bolt this down up on top of the roof there. Next piece of the puzzle, gussets. So we've got some little wee 10mm thick, so 50mm by 10mm, and we're going to cut some little triangles out of this, and these will fit into the back ends of our little mount that we just built. So we'll get these cut out and we can start fitting those too. So we've had a slight change of plan in terms of our timeline. I got told that I was driving too fast coming into the car park, and I will put my hand up and say maybe I did, maybe I was driving a little bit fast, but I had my speed peer reviewed by Duncan, and it turns out I wasn't actually driving excessively fast. I was driving normal, and it turns out the speed limit was set lower than I realised. So with that in mind, we've been asked very kindly to get the out, and we're going to be leaving basically halfway through our generator build. As you can see, there's still a hole in the deck. So none of this is obviously sarcastic. This is actually real. So we're going to be...
Humans are so awesome.
Yeah.
All the time.
Awesome.
So we're taking our marbles and going home.
Yeah. So the plan is we've rung the original marina that we were parked at. They've got a space available for us, so we're going to be busting ass tonight. Yay, another Brupeg episode where we do stupid amounts of work in a short space of time. Who likes the dopamine hit? So tonight's job is basically get the generator bolted down and the deck closed up. Yes, that's a lot of work to do. You heard that right. So this is the mount that I put together yesterday. Birk's going to go through and grind up, like radius all of these corners that we've 45. He's going to radius those off, clean up all the welds, basically give it a heck of a grind so that we can get some paint to hold onto this. And we're doing that now before we put the gussets in. So these little guys here, they are going to get cut and chopped and whatever and welded in place like so. But once we put these in, we can't get a grinder in to get it ready for cleaning, so for painting, sorry. So we're going to grind all that up first, and then we'll weld these guys in after the fact. Alright, so while that's happening, I'm going to take my template that I made yesterday for that mount that Birk's now doing out of steel. I'm going to make a new one of these, basically chop this one down, and we're going to be making the second mount, which is a slightly different size. So I'll go and do that. But now Duncan is working on solving all the electrics on it, like what goes where, what plugs go where, all that sort of stuff, breaker sizing, things like that. And Jess is about to do a trip into town for a restock, because we had 2 public holidays in a row and we've got people on the boat and we're out of food on the boat, so she's going to go and do a restock while we're doing this. The plan is to do a bit of a late night tonight. So first step is get these mounts done, and then once the mount's done, the genset can be bolted down, and then as soon as we've got that done, we're going to start welding the hole into the boat and get that sealed up. We're so close to being able to get out there and do our sea trials. At the time of recording, the generator is inside the boat. The Victron gear has been ordered. We're just waiting for it to arrive and the sparkies to turn up, and then a bit of a frenzy of work to get everything done and make the boat reliable and capable of heading to sea. This leads me to funding Brupeg. We would love to have you guys on board as a Patreon. Patreon is our main source of income for Brupeg. We do get a little bit from YouTube advertising, but it's a token gesture compared to the support that we get from our 430 Patreons. If you would like to be one of the incredibly valuable people that keep this project going, we would love to have you become a Patreon. If you don't have the financial means to become a Patreon, you can join Patreon as a free member. You won't necessarily see everything that the paid members do, but you'll be able to see when things are released. You'll start to see a little bit of behind the scenes, so you'll get a little bit more up to date, even if you aren't a financial member of Patreon. Either way, we love the support. Thank you for watching. Thank you for viewing, subscribing, liking, and sharing with your friends. It's awesome to have you with us. While the grinding over the back's taking place, I'm going to work on getting this drilled and tapped, because I've got the drill for it now. So we can go through and get these tapped using this as our drilling tapping jig. And then we can essentially bolt that part of the genset down, which firms up the measurements for the other side. They should be pretty good anyway, because we had it all clamped and it should work regardless, but having it bolted is kind of exactly what's needed. Alright, I've got one hole in this cross member drilled and tapped, and I've just used a bolt just to put that in and line it up. Got it clamped at this end. This is a 6.5mm drill, which these are M8, so it's 8mm wide, 1.25 thread pitch. So easiest way to figure out your drill size is 8mm minus 1.25mm, so we need a 6.75mm drill. Don't have one, this is a 6.5, which is perfectly fine. So we put a 6.5mm drill down these bolts, which gives us our center. We can then take this guy off, drill the holes out, tap the holes using Speedy Gonzalez down here, and they should line up perfect. Center hole, marked, center hole, marked, marked. Alright, 1/8 of an inch hole drilled as a pilot down there. Time to drill them all out to be the same size. Important when you set up these shots to make sure that you turn the camera on, because you would have seen all of these holes be drilled. My favourite way to tap a hole, in this case an M8 hole, is to get our little rattle gun, some decent cutting oil, a nice sharp tap, and just smash it out using this. It turns what's normally an awful job into a piece of cake. Normally we try and sandblast any steel that we're going to be painting at a later date, but we don't have the option of that obviously, so we're going to be doing a real coarse grind. Now this black sort of colour you see on the steel is called mill scale, and it's essentially put on at the steel mill. If you paint over that, your paint will just fall off. You need to get rid of it, get a real coarse key on it so that the paint will hold on. While that's happening, I'm getting stuck into this welding, so put these little gussets in, put one on either side, get those welded in so this mount is nice and strong. So one of the challenges that we're facing is the berth that we're forced to move the boat to is a no work berth. It's the only one we can get at short notice, so we have to smash out as much work as possible in the remaining 6 hours of the day. A bit spicy hot. We need to grind up because we've got some undercut and stuff like that. We've got to grind those into radiuses, but that's basically our gusseted, spinning fast because of heat. That's our gusseted mount, so that'll be nice and strong. I don't think that's going to move. It's obviously not a challenge, like we don't necessarily want this to move. So Birk's gone through and cleaned up all the mill scale off this so that we can get paint to stick to it. It's not sandblasted, it's not perfect, but it's the best that we can do on a tight schedule.
You've got a nut on here.
Oh, nut on there. Okay. Put a nut back on there. How's that for alignment? Yep. We don't have a die that we can use to clean up this. It's a 1/2 inch stud. So this here is a thread file. You can see it's basically got teeth all the way down here. And you can do what Birk's doing is find the right teeth combo, and then you can just clean up your threads. It gets rid of any burrs and stuff like that. It's not perfect, but it's definitely better than not having a cleaned up thread. The rear mount can go in, and that locks in the position of the generator left to right.
Yeah.
With the rear mount bolted, we're able to swap the chain block around to lift the front more precisely.
Quick bite to eat.
So second mount is in. This is our wiggle mount that we built before. That's in, we just need to bolt it up, and that is getting welded to the bed base over there. Normally we'd grind, but we want to keep the engine bay clean, so we're sanding off the paint ready to weld. This is all cleaned up, ready to weld. This is sanded as much as we can, so we've got a little bit of primer and stuff that we have to cut through with the welder. It'll be a bit shitty over those bits, but we'll burn through. And I kind of stuffed up. I wanted to actually mount this over top of this pad, so I didn't have the foot over this blank area here, so I'm just going to have to fill that up with weld. Forgot when I drilled these guys, I was going to move the whole generator this way, like, I don't know, 40 mil to account for that, but doesn't matter, I'll just fill that up with weld. So we'll go through now with the TIG. So normally you would MIG a lot of this sort of thing, but MIG is kind of messy, and we've got the TIG torch set up, and I'm too lazy to swap it over. So although it takes a little bit of time, it's actually kind of nice because you end up with really crisp, clean welds that don't have a lot of splatter. And I don't really like MIG welding in the engine room. I much prefer to TIG weld in the engine room.
Maybe we should put a mask on.
Yeah. How the absolute fuck? I'm bending the tungsten.
Huh?
I'm bending the tungstens.
What?
Too much temperature through the tungsten. I'm bending them.
You need another one?
No, I'm going to pretend it's not happening. There we go. Well doored. Okay, now this guy's in. The mount down the back is in. We've pretty much triangulated this so it's sitting where it needs to. Obviously the weight still being taken by the chain up here, but the height difference between that mount there and the base over here is 55mm vertical. So we need to go in 90. So this part needs to be 90, go up 55 and then go back 90. So 90, 55, 90. So we'll just crack on, make that bit. We'll sand up this piece of the boat and then weld that in exactly the same basically over there. We'll bolt the mount to the piece that we're making and weld it in over there. While I've been doing this, Birk's up top cleaning up the hatch ready to go back in. So there's a couple of bits of dags of old bits of metal and stuff that we need to clean up. He's basically weld prepping it, making sure that we can put it straight back on shortly. So as soon as I've got this mount made and welded in, which I'm hoping to get done in the next maybe 2 hours, I'll get we'll drag the hatch over and we'll be able to start welding that in. So hopefully by dinner tonight we will have a lid back on the engine room because we have to press off first thing in the morning. So the second mount is a much simpler design. We're able to do it out of one piece of steel. We cut 90% of the way through with the 9-inch grinder and then we can put it in the vise and bend it over. Once it's bent over like this, then we just have to fill that bend up with weld. So it's a big, deep V. So there's just lots and lots and lots of weld that we put in there. We also need it to be pretty, so we cut the corners off at a 45-degree angle so that we can radius them easier with the smaller grinder later on. And then once our corners are cut off at a 45, we can then just go through and slice it off at the right length for the final mount. This is the fastest mount we've ever built, so basically, a bit warm. So I haven't cut it all the way through, I've just cut it 90% of the way through, then bent it. I'm going to fill these big V's up with TIG weld. We're not even going to bother with gussets on this because it's such a flat mount and it's so blimmin' thick it's not going to bend. So we're just going to smash this out, get this welded, clean up all of the rounded areas, and then that is ready to go into the engine. It's so hot over here. I wouldn't do that. It's not only the heat off the welding, it's the torch is really hot.
Yeah.
And the metal is bloody like
melting,
radiating all the heat out, eh?
Yeah.
God, thank God for the bloody ceramic tile. Jesus.
No, looks pretty good.
Right. Last one. Slippery.
Walking the cup.
Yeah. I've done virtually no walking the cup ever, so I'm pretty shit at it. But it's a good opportunity to have a go. Jesus Christ.
Yep, you can see it.
I don't know how you get it smooth yet. Fucking hell, how do you do it? Oh, you do that.
I think the camera is feeling the heat as well.
Yeah. Second mount built, so it's nowhere near as pretty as the first because we ran out of gas, so we couldn't clean up some of our welds, but they're definitely strong enough. There's a bucket load of weld on there, so that'll get welded down like so, with the rubber mount bolted to the top, as you can see. It's later in the afternoon, so the sun is like in our face as we're working, but we've run out of argon for the TIG, so we're swapping over to MIG. We really don't like doing MIG in the engine room because it's kind of messy and it'll spray shit everywhere. But right now we don't have a choice. We have to go in the morning, and this is how we're going to weld the last mount in. We're on to the last mount. So down here, bolted up, ready to go. So we're going to go through with MIG and get that glued onto the boat.
Fuck, we'll blow the brake, I guess.
Try as we might, we could only get a few seconds out of the welder before it kept blowing the fuse. So we had to give up at this point in the evening.
Yep. It's dead again.
Yep. We went to get Japanese after a full-on day of work, and when we came back, the breaker was off, so the boat didn't have any shore power. The boat was using power during that time. The batteries had gone completely flat, and it meant that we couldn't do any welding that time at night. So we had to essentially wait until the solar powered up the batteries so that we could move first thing in the morning.